Countdown music. I like it. All right. All right. It is Wednesday night. It's 7 p.m. and it is time for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and click a couple of buttons here and start with our welcome. As always, I want to welcome you all for joining me. We will give it a minute or two and hopefully get a couple of people to join in tonight. As always, don't forget, you can use the comment section to say hey or interact with us and ask questions, make comments, that kind of fun stuff. As always, all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Also, at this point in the program, I usually like to kind of throw it out there to please support or please follow us on our social media. I got to update this banner one of these days. At SC Normal on Instagram. I think it's Normal SC at Twitter. And I don't know, search out South Carolina NORML on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube's kind of an important one. I believe that's a better platform for streaming. But anyway, please subscribe and follow our social media. Also, at this time, I do like to remind you to support our sponsors. Visit our website at scnormal.org and click one of the drop-down menus. Will take you to our sponsor page. Some great thank yous to our sponsors last month, especially the folks up at the Not Burger Pub in Somerville. They ran a month-long fundraiser for us. Came through bigger this year than previous years. Awesome. Our donut fundraiser did okay. You know, I always have these sky-high hopes, but we did okay. But anyway, yes, please go and support our sponsors, recognize our sponsors. Also, at this time, I'm going to click another button to our intro and agenda. Turn that one off there. And this is the time I usually like to hand the program over to VP and say, hey, VP, what you got for us tonight? Unfortunately, I'm going to cry just a little bit. She'd been busy woman, busy with family, busy with work. And, you know, I ask a lot. I must admit, I ask a lot, but I also understand when people need time for themselves and their family. As you all know, there's a passion for this effort that I have that I don't even quite understand why. It takes a lot of my time, my thought, my energy, and it's not like I have an end game of saying, oh, I'm going to start a cannabis business in the future or being involved in the industry. No, it's just more my frustration with violations, constitutional violations, and civil rights and civil liberties of a citizen of our United States. So that's kind of what, and my focus is on cannabis on that particular subject. Anyway, that's my mumble grumble on that a little bit. We do have a bit of an agenda for tonight, so let me go ahead and kind of go peek at my notes. I'm actually, since VP has been sort of trying to step to the side for our Wednesday nights and work on some other projects for us, I'm trying to create a run of show schedule and prepare it out a little bit. Any of you that have joined me for the number of years that we've been doing this, we're probably in our fourth year of online meeting type stuff, but our podcast not been quite that long. Most of the times I was flying it by the seat of my pants. VP came along and she'd started this like run of show sheet for us, and would try and plan things at least a couple of days ahead. And now I've sort of just copied and pasted the little format in blank format out a couple of weeks. And I'm going to try and work on filling in the blanks over the next couple of yeah, as we move forward and try and get some planned stuff going, so I'm not flying so much by the seat of my pants. We have some good information to talk about in a timely fashion or in an appropriate time frame. So anyway, with our agenda tonight, two things I kind of wanted to talk about, and I sort of split the programming into two parts for the most part. Here is first part. We'll be talking about the importance of grassroots advocacy and organizing. I found a great article on it that does not apply to our field of advocacy, but the discussion of what they did was sort of more what I was looking at. It's also a little bit older document, I think about 15 years old, but I'll share that URL with you when we get started on that one. And then on the second half of the program, I'm going to be talking about the talking points for decriminalization. Somebody had a good point a few weeks ago after our fundraisers and our 420 activities. I believe the person was one of the volunteers in Columbia at the pizza shop, which I still have to follow up with those folks because I don't think we hit our goal on that one, but we're allowed to do like a follow-up one too. Hopefully hit our goal. And they were talking about, it'd be nice if we would start to do some sort of training videos on things like this, talking points or advocacy and how-tos. A lot of times I've tried to just sort of share things down from national, but I think there's some things that we can talk about more directly, especially, like I say, more focused on the folks here in South Carolina that we can talk directly to. And one of these is the marijuana decriminalization talking points. I'll get into a bit more when we talk about that on why I think it's so important, but we will get to that. Also, then we're going to just kind of do some of our regular items. We've got trivia coming up again tonight, and I've got 3 trivia questions lined up. So let's hope I get to them. Don't ramble on too much. Also, at the end of the program, I will start talking about a little bit, as I normally do, our upcoming events and things like that. And that's kind of the agenda for tonight. I'm just going to take a quick peek here in comment. Don't see any comments in our section yet. But I think we're about ready to get started. We'll get started right off the bat with one of those trivia questions. So let's see what which one I'm going to start with. I'm just going to kind of randomly grab one of these 3 off of my desk and go back to my agenda over here. Cannabis question, trivia question number 1 tonight is a TV related subject category, TV category, 40 points if you're keeping score. The question is, on the cartoon The Simpsons, what caused Homer his eye injury and what caused Homer to injure his eye and smoke medical marijuana? Was it A, attacked by a flock of crows? Was it B, an eye poke from Barney? Or was it C, Milhouse kicked him? So again, TV related category, 40 point question. In the cartoon The Simpsons, what caused Homer to injure his eye and end up smoking medical marijuana? Was it attacked by a flock of crows, or a poke in the eye from Barney, or Milhouse kicked him? Now, I want to remind you folks, one of the things we are doing with our trivia is hopefully we can find some folks that want to sponsor our trivia questions on the show, as well as our podcast. I hate to be sounding like I'm always begging for money here, because what we do is volunteer. But there are things we need money for, to put on events or to get more attention or to set up things, trips to see a lot of legislators, all kinds of things like that. So I don't want to sound like I'm begging, but I do want to let any businesses out there know that we do have some opportunities. If you'd like to sponsor our podcast or a segment in our podcast or a trivia question. We have some other options as well. All right, let's get back to the answer right away. Thank you for that. Again, our category on our trivia question, TV, 40-point question. The question one more time is on the cartoon The Simpsons. What caused Homer to injure his eye and smoke medical marijuana? I see no answers at this point in the comment section. The three answers were attacked by a flock of crows, poked in the eye from Barney, or Milhouse kicked him. The answer is attacked by a flock of crows. I believe I saw that one. All right. That will take us into our first segment. Excuse me. And unlike things that we've done in the past, I didn't put up the question banner, and I have no other banners set up for us at the moment. So we're just kind of fly with it. I'm going to open up my share screen here, and I'm going to copy this link for you all. Share my screen, share a window, share that one. All righty. See if I can scroll this down a little bit. This article, and let me drop the link in the comments for you, is from another organization, an organization called the Sunflower Foundation. That should be the right link there. And the title of it is Giving Voice, the Power of Grassroots Advocacy in Shaping Public Policy. A relatively short document. I believe it's just the one page. Oh, I fibbed. There's another page. So a two-sided. But I thought it had some really good information in it, and I thought it was something that we really should share on the program tonight. So I'm going to start by kind of just reading the first paragraph. It'll get us a little bit involved. I'm not going to read the whole article to you. You know, I'm not really a fan of doing that. But let's go ahead and dive on into it. This is written by Billy Hall, President and CEO of the Sunflower Foundation, and begins, efforts to shape public policy often include building the capacity of nonprofit organizations to more effectively advocate on behalf of their causes, communities, and most importantly, the people that they serve. I mean, when I read that, just that first line the other day, I'm like, oh boy, don't I know the importance of that and the struggle for an organization like ours to do that. But let's go on. Within advocacy work, there exists a wide spectrum of strategies that can be employed to change or shape public policy. Yet too often, nonprofit health organizations, which is what Sunflower is, tend to limit themselves to a narrow range of strategies that typically includes education, policy data analysis, and limited legislative advocacy. Doesn't sound a whole lot different than some of the approaches that we use, for the most part, trying to educate the community on cannabis, letting them know the difference between the facts and propaganda, limited lobbying. We do a lobby day a year. We ask our members and our followers to write to their legislators from time to time. There's it's limited. I've got to agree. While these strategies are important to public policy work, they may not be enough to influence policymakers in today's increasingly special interest and ideological driven political system. That nailed it right there. It does not seem to be enough. So I'm going to pop down to the next one, the introduction. After observing more than a decade of proposed legislation on public smoking bans die due to a lack of support in the Kansas state legislature, the Sunflower Foundation decided to develop and support a grassroots campaign, with the sole objective of getting a statewide law prohibiting smoking in public places. Now, again, I'm going to jump back a little bit here. This article came out in November of 2010. So we're going back, 13 years thereabouts on this particular article. And as you all know, there's smoking bans all over the place now. I don't know how prominent they were at this time, but apparently this is the organization's study on the smoking ban. So their sole objective was getting a statewide law prohibiting smoking in public settings. What would our goal be? Our goal would be really statewide legislation to decriminalize simple possession. That would be, in my mind, the primary goal. I'll get into that a little bit more later. 15 months later, after a year of planning and with the support of all foundation trustees, the campaign was launched in January 2009. 15 months later, the Kansas legislature passed and the governor signed the Kansas Clean Indoor Air Act. Now that, pretty impressive. 15 months after about a year of planning. So now we're talking, 2+ years to get something taken care of and getting done. The aha moment. I like this paragraph a little bit here as I went through it. In 2007, I was observing a legislative committee hearing on a proposed smoking ban that I began to look around the filled capacity room. Two things caught my attention: the profile of those providing testimony and their respective arguments. The proponents of the smoking ban were represented by public health practitioners, educators, advocacy groups. The collective written and oral testimony of this group was impressive and powerful. Armed with the 2006 U.S. Surgeon General report, The Health Consequences of Involuntary Exposure to Tobacco, they presented an ironclad argument that public health protection is the responsibility of the state and as such should not be left to the discretion of municipalities. The opponents were represented by a significant number of everyday Kansasans. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Kansasans, holding their handwritten testimony. They were not the expected opposition lobbyists. They shared personal stories about how the proposed legislation would affect their business and their communities. They did not attempt to refute the science, and they made a compelling case for keeping the government out of their business. One legislator said he was impressed by the testimony of those who are, quote, very passionate about the health issues, unquote, but he was also mindful of the fact that, quote, all wisdom of the state does not reside in this building, unquote. He ended by saying that the appropriate place for this regulation was the local level. The proposed indoor smoking, public smoking ban died for a lack of support. The opposition delivered the people of Kansas, and the lawmakers responded. These people were average, regular citizens, their neighbors, their constituents. What if one of the advocacy strategies for proponents of clean air used grassroots to bring average Kansasans' view to the State House? So what they're saying is this organization, Sunflower Organization, had a bunch of professionals, doctors and experts in the field and that kind of stuff. And the opposition was everyday citizens, handwritten testimony, having their voices heard in the State House. And that's one of the arguments I quite often hear about the legislators in our state here in South Carolina saying that they don't see their constituents as wanting medical marijuana or decriminalization or anything to do with marijuana law reform. And that's what they tell us year after year after year. Excuse me. And I think maybe it's because the people that support it, their voices aren't getting out there, or they aren't getting heard. Let me go on just a little bit to tell you more of this folks' story, because I think, again, it's pretty compelling. One of the most effective and often underused strategies available to nonprofits is grassroots advocacy, generally as it defined as the basic source of support from the ground up. Grassroots advocacy includes organizing, mobilizing, and engaging the public to advocate for themselves. So, I consider our organization a grassroots organization, because we quite often are trying to engage the public and have them advocate for themselves, reaching out and contacting their legislators. The value of this form of advocacy is that it is driven by the people. It is grounded in the belief that people matter and that their collective voices are powerful in influencing elected officials and in shaping policies at all levels of government. Good stuff here. I think it's really good stuff. A Kansas lawmaker once said that 3 anecdotes make policy. While its exaggeration is humorous, it also explains why the grassroots efforts of the opposition are so effective, especially in the face of irrefutable science that secondhand smoke is harmful. Was it possible that the advocates had not delivered the public voice in making their case for the public health law in order to in indoor smoking bans? Was the public missing in public health? Well, I'm going to propose this. I'm going to put this out there to those that may be on with us, those that might be viewing later. We've done a couple of lobby days, and we do this program every week, and we try to generate funds through memberships. And I got to tell you, it's been a struggle. I've been doing this since 2017, January 2017. We founded the organization, and it can really be a struggle. And I've heard a number of reasons behind folks saying why. And if you have some thoughts on that, again, please comment. And I'm not sure exactly how much of what is there. I've told them sometimes at national that people here in the state tell me that they're afraid that they're going to get on some kind of watch list or government list or list if they join our organization, and that then they'll be targeted by law enforcement or something of that nature. And I must admit, when I mentioned that, I felt that they kind of scoffed at me at national, and I don't think they understand. I just don't think they understand South Carolina. It's a real thing. And even if it's not a list on law enforcement, I also know, and people will tell me, they don't want to be public about their support for cannabis because they don't want a surprise P-test at work, or they don't want to have their family look at them differently, or there's peer pressure reasons on why people do not advocate loudly about trying to end the criminalization of cannabis in South Carolina. And the more I've been looking at this over the past few years, and I've said this before, I really believe our direction forward in this state is through decriminalization, starting at the municipal level, whether we do it through getting council members to help us sponsor ordinances, or whether we do it through the ballot initiative process. I really think that that's going to be our way forward in South Carolina, barring the ending of prohibition at the federal level, and then moving it forward that way until we get enough towns where the state finally goes, all right, we give up. Well, we hear you. Let me go on to this just a little bit more in this article. Let me check my time here. Cool. I'm not too far off. I'm going to run through this last part kind of quick, but there was a couple things in here that I thought were very interesting. Looking back at the history of Kansas experience, there were many public health efforts that influenced public opinion about smoke-free public places, according to a public opinion poll in 2007. 71% of the voters were in favor of the state law, yet Kansas legislature was listening to the minority voices of the opposition. Again, we have that problem here in South Carolina with cannabis. Determined to get voice to the majority, the foundation hired a national firm in 2008 to conduct a grassroots assessment and develop a plan to get state and or indoor public smoking law passed in 2010. Now, I'm assuming from some of the language that they talk about in here, they had some money. I don't know, where they get their sponsors and their funding, but they talk about writing grants for other organizations to help them gather the support. We don't have the option of hiring people at this point. When the Sunflower Foundation made the decision to support this campaign, it evaluated options for issuing a grant to one or more organizations. Due to the concerns about the capacity of existing organizations, the extensive lobbying, and the short window of opportunity to implement the campaign, the foundation contracted directly for the services needed to run the campaign. So again, they were able to hire professional signature collectors, things of that nature, to make this move quickly. Because the Sunflower Foundation is classified as a public charity organization, it can engage in lobbying under the Internal Revenue regulations for public charities. Now, it doesn't tell me if they're a 501c4 or it says 501ch. So I'm not sure what an H designation is, and I would have to look at that. The foundation chose the section 501H, the expenditure test, as its measure of lobbying expenditures, because the guidelines and limits are clear and definitive, unlike the unsubstantial part test. So I'm not sure exactly what all that means. We're a 501c4. We're allowed to do lobbying because of that designation, more so than a 501c3. All right. So with the emphasis on grassroots lobbying, the campaign was able to identify 10,000 supportive Kansas voters and 20 targeted legislative districts by phone. So they did phone banking. Thanks to an innovative system created by the campaign team that gave supporters the option of recording a personal message for their legislators during the call. Over 4,000 messages and stories were recorded on CDs and given to targeted lawmakers. Now that, I'd like to know how that was done. I'm assuming that was something that was done through the call center service that they hired, or something, that they'd be able to record these messages. And then, because if we could do something where we had people call in or during a call, if we were doing call banking, or even if we had the opportunity of people to call in and just leave their story and share those stories with our legislators, I don't know what it may or may not do, but I would hope that they would hear the voices of their constituents and, and have a change of heart like they did in this particular story. So they collected these 4,000, they sent them to the legislators. As the legislators were urged to listen to the CD while driving between their home district and the Capitol. All our legislators do that. Well, the lawmakers recognized the voices of their friends and neighbors, though they had never discussed this issue with them before. The records were also cataloged and featured on the Clean Air Campaign website, which enabled the media to connect with real people and real stories across Kansas as well. I mean, great idea. Not only did they share those recordings and those stories with the legislators, but they made them, shared them on their website so media could actually have access to them. 13 of the targeted legislators whose likely vote prior to the campaign was no, voted yes. One did not vote. On February 25th, 2010, lawmakers finally heard what the voters of Kansas wanted and passed a strong indoor smoking ban. All right. I'm going to kind of cut this one short because I have my next segment to talk about. But I thought this was really kind of interesting. We're going to talk more about reaching out and grassroots advocacy as we move forward. But yeah, the rest of this basically talks about building your capacity, empowering, strengthening, um, know where the public is on the issue. So there's a lot of good things on why we want to get down to the grassroots and get out more in contact with people. No, I guess I will kind of run through this quick. I'll run short my other one. The most important advocacy capacity building strategy that the foundation can support in the future. Engaging the public is the most powerful. Why is my computer jumping around? Empowers grantees to use advocacy strategies, providing training and access to expertise and resources like Alliance for Justice. Strengthens grassroots advocacy capacity by supporting technical assistance. Okay, this is what their funding does. I'm going to back out on this one, but that's something like we definitely want to start doing more. If you haven't noticed, some of our events on our coming events calendar are really more just getting out in the public. I'll mention it later in the program as we're closing, but next Friday, June 2nd, is going to be the first reggae night at James Island County Park. I was actually requested by another manager if I wanted to work that event, and I'm like, sorry, I'm going to go as a participant and watch and enjoy the show. So James Island County Park, June 2nd, we'll be out there just kind of being present in the community, wearing our shirts and trying to get some notice for NORML. And that was what brought up our second segment for tonight, is talking a little bit about marijuana decriminalization talking points. Let me just kind of look here. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I really believe that the way forward is through decriminalization first. You may have heard my frustration over the years with some of the other organizations that have said we're not going to even talk about decriminalization in South Carolina until we pass a medical bill in South Carolina. And you can see the struggles that they're having getting a medical bill passed. It's going nowhere fast. And the bill that is going is so restrictive, it's not funny. Not funny. It's rather sad. Anyway, and I've been saying for a long time that really what we need to do is start hitting this head on by decriminalizing at the municipal level, city, town level, county if we can, and affect the penalty of the simple possession charge of cannabis here in South Carolina. Basically 28 grams or less. We would prefer it to become a no fine, no time, no court cost type civil infraction. But as you know, many places might implement like a $25 or $100 fine. But even the no fine, no time, no court costs program, if you're caught with cannabis in public, somebody's going to come and confiscate it from you and shoo you away and tell you get on your way and you're at least out your cannabis. And we like that because once the money gets involved, like in a fine, then you kind of get tied into that criminal justice system. And that's what we're trying to avoid. People getting caught up in the criminal justice system over simple cannabis possession. So with that kind of thought in mind, the second part of our podcast tonight, I had on our agenda is talking a little bit about the marijuana decriminalization talking. My mouth's got to stop working. The marijuana decriminalization talking points that are posted out on NORML National's website under norml.org/laws/decriminalization/marijuana-decriminalization. I'll tell you what, let me share the link with you. That's a little bit easier. Kaboom. Hey, I see a comment from Josh in here. What do we got, Josh? How can Mother Nature be illegal? We can make mosquitoes illegal. If we could, Man, them buggers. Now, and I must admit, there's sometimes when folks say it's just a plant. Well, it's those poison ivy, so a lot of other stuff. But I don't think we should be criminalizing these things. There should be health issues. You know, don't smoke it, poison ivy. It's not healthy. I'm assuming if people felt better when they consumed poison ivy, they would try and make it illegal. I, if minorities were consuming poison ivy and enjoying it, they'd make it illegal. All right, rant. Uh, so, what I do like is NORML does have this broken down into. I should not have eaten another gummy there. Oh, and folks, these are probiotic, prebiotic. They're not the good gummies. They're not the THC infused gummies. Not here in South Carolina. All right. And again, Josh, still shouldn't take your weed. No, they still shouldn't. But best not to get caught with it, I gotta say. Because, of course, it'll even mention it here. And the talking points. We'll go ahead right away with these. Talking point number 1. Decriminalizing marijuana frees up police resources to deal with more serious crimes. Let's see if we have a date on this particular document. I do not. Some of this is older material. Yep. 60,000 individuals are behind bars for marijuana offenses at the cost of taxpayers of $1.2 billion per year. Reference on this was the marijuana arrest and incarceration in the United States in 1999. The Federation of American Sciences Drug Policy Analysis Bulletin. So, yeah, some of this is a little bit old. This got 23, 24 years ago. And although the numbers are dropping for the number of arrests in legalized states, they're not necessarily dropping in the states where there's still prohibition on simple possession, or even in states where the medical is legal. Doesn't mean that they're still not reducing arrest. South Carolina over the years has been a roller coaster. I've seen it as high as about 36,000 cannabis arrests a year. I've seen the average running probably around 16,000. And I think I saw a somewhat recent report that they were down to about 9,000 at one point not too long ago. So the numbers vary throughout the years. But the fact that they're lowering in legalized states doesn't necessarily mean that overall they're going down here in South Carolina. And as a matter of fact, on some recent stories that I've been seeing, it looks like they may be even ramping up again. Taxpayers, I'm still on talking point 1, decriminalizing marijuana. Hey, y'all, Taco Tuesday 420s here. Thanks for making it. All right. Where was I? Talking point 1 yet. We talked about the 60,000 individuals behind bars. Taxpayers annually spend between $7.5 billion and $10 billion arresting and prosecuting individuals for marijuana violations. Almost 90% of these arrests are for marijuana possession only. Again, I don't know why these are such old documents or where I found it. Probably isn't live on their site anymore. So again, these numbers were back in the late 90s. But the war on drug cost billions of dollars, and it hasn't really dropped significantly in the past 10 years as states are becoming more and more legalized. That, I believe, is a lot of the fear in why law enforcement is against decriminalization, is because they believe that they're going to get their funding cut. And it's all about the money. Okay, so the state of California saved nearly $1 billion from 76 to 85 by decriminalizing the personal possession of 1 ounce of marijuana, according to a study of the state Justice Department budget. So that's $1 billion back in 76 to 85. Basically a 10-year period. That's probably, I don't know, 3 billion in today's economy or more. I don't know what the math on that particular one would be. New Mexico's 2001 State Commission Drug Policy Advisory Group determined that marijuana decriminalization will result in greater availability of resources to respond to more serious crimes without any increased risk to public safety. Marijuana arrests have more than doubled since 1991, while adult use of the drug has remained stable. During the same period, the number of arrests for cocaine and heroin fell by approximately 33%. Now, again, we're seeing it, and we've seen it for decades here, as this will tell us. Cannabis arrests are easy. They'll waste their time on cannabis arrests, so they don't have to go out and find real crime to work on. Police arrest more Americans per year on marijuana charges than the total number of arrestees for all violent crime combined, including murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. More than 734,000 individuals were arrested on marijuana charges in the year 2000. 88% of those arrested were charged with marijuana possession only. Oh, man, I should take these talking points and update this information because I knew there's a lot more updated information. But you see what I'm getting at with this. Talking point 2, I'm going to run through these a little bit quicker just because I'm looking at my watch here. Oh, and I forgot question number 2 tonight, folks. Let's get to that before we go on to talking point 2. Bear with me. I'm not quite on my game tonight. All right. Let me go find it. We'll do trivia question number 2. Category unjust bust, 30 points. Which former lead singer of the band Van Halen was busted buying a nickel bag of marijuana in Central Park? Was it Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth, or Sammy Hagar? Again, which former lead singer of the band Van Halen was busted buying a nickel bag of marijuana in Central Park? Was it Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth, or Sammy Hagar? Blah, blah, blah. Sponsors we're looking for. Sponsor trivia, blah, blah, blah. All right. Unjust bust is the category, 30 points if you're keeping score. Which former lead singer of the band Van Halen was busted buying a nickel bag of marijuana in Central Park? It was David Lee Roth. Why am I not surprised? Oh, now I'm back. I don't know. Knocked out my camera somehow. David Lee Roth. I like it. I'm back there. That was this. Washington Square Park. You know, I caught them wrong on one of these the other day, so that could be. Dimebag David. All right. I like it. Thank you for the humor and entertainment, David. That was definitely entertaining. All right. Back to our talking points here real quick. Far more harm is caused by criminal prohibition of marijuana than by marijuana use itself. I think we've kind of talked about that a number of times, and you know I talk about that all the time on the podcast here. I'm not going to go through all these. Like I said, I shared the link with you a little earlier. But just the fact that, I'll skim it a little bit. There's no conclusive evidence that the drug effects of marijuana are causally linked to the subsequent abuse of other illicit drugs. Let's see if I can find another good comment here. Convicted marijuana offenders are denied federal financial student aid, welfare, and food stamps, and may be removed from public housing. So other non-drug violations do not carry such penalties. So yeah, the cannabis consumers have been targeted unfairly, especially. So you can lose your rights to any food stamps, any sort of aid, student aid, public housing. I hear people say, well, why don't these frickin' stoners just go get a job? Well, you make us pee in a cup to get a job. And if we pee in a cup and you find we've used cannabis, you don't want us to have a job. It's rather offensive, to be quite honest with you, especially because cannabis consumers are probably better at most jobs than alcohol consumers. They probably show up more consistently, probably don't show up hungover. So, number 3 talking point. I'm not going to go, like I say, read these all the way down to the wire, but the number 3 talking point on decriminalization is decriminalization does not lead to greater marijuana use. It really doesn't. I mean, decriminalization doesn't make marijuana legal. It just means that the penalties have been affected to or reduced. I like the comment. Eric's on with us, says synthetic urine is the temporary answer to the screening. I hear they've come a long way. I did it the hard way. I took 59 days till I got a clean test, but I got one. And then I went and got a job, another job, should I say. But, cannabis consumers are some of the smartest, most creative people in the world. They talk about these stoners in their freaking garages or their parents' basement. I'm thinking, well, where did computers get invented? In people's garages and basements in the 70s by stoners. Come on, people. Taco Tuesday 420 says because it opens communication, net the left and the right, between the left and the right brain. Yep, I agree. Definitely opens the mind. I mean, I find it somewhat interesting that all of the places that are starting to either decriminalize psychedelics, psilocybin mushrooms, that type of thing, and the studies that are starting to use these psychedelics and talking about how they really seem to be opening communications in the brain, just kind of like Taco Tuesday 420's mentioning here. And decriminalization does not lead to greater cannabis use. Government studies conclude that marijuana decriminalization has had virtually no effect on either marijuana use or beliefs and related attitudes about marijuana among American young people. Citizens who live under decriminalization laws consume marijuana at rates less than or compatible to those who live in regions where the possession of marijuana remains a criminal offense. So, it's not like all of a sudden everybody's going to run on out and start using cannabis just because it's been decriminalized. It's still illegal. It's just been decriminalized. The penalties have been reduced. But they'll still take it from you if they catch you with it. Oh, I see what happened. It switched cameras on me. That's what's going on here. I wonder if I can switch back. Yeah, I'm back. Don't know what the hiccup was. And now, I mean, that's one of the things I've tried to talk to some local municipalities, not necessarily legislators, but other prominent figures, especially in the business communities. And they just don't see the need or reason to support the decrim efforts at this point, because in some of these near me, I got Folly Beach. They're not really focused on cannabis arrests. They have enough that they can arrest people for down there. There was a flurry a few years back when they had hired on a new officer at one point who had a background in drug enforcement. And that was relatively short-lived little flurry on a marijuana arrest that I recall. I haven't pulled any public records requests on them for a few years now. But, you know, and I know that Charleston City Police, Charleston City de-emphasized marijuana arrest a few years ago to sort of reduce the population in one of their prisons. Um, but I don't know, again, the statistics, and I know there's other area in our state that there's still very high cannabis arrest numbers. So decriminalization does not lead to greater use. Fourth comment on the list, and there are only 4 of them on the talking point list. Criminal laws prohibiting marijuana possession do not deter marijuana use. Any of you here on the call with me tonight think you'll stop using cannabis because it's against the law here in South Carolina? I'm guessing not. It does not. And again, if you want to read through the link that I shared with this a little bit earlier, talking points on decriminalization, you can read some of the statistics on this, but it does not deter cannabis use. There we go. I'm loving the responses already. We've got cannabis in medicine, cannabis for life, never stopping. There we go. Cannabis proud. Yeah, that's my people. I like it. Anyway, I do see that we're at 7:52, and according to my little run of show here, I'm kind of ticking on down to the wire here. I think I was supposed to run this segment till about 7:52. Look at that. So I am going to switch gears at the last minute. I'm going to close off the share screen. There we go. And just go ahead and open up my notes. And I don't have a whole lot really to talk about at the end of the program today. I did mention it earlier. I will mention it again because it's coming up next Friday, and I believe the time is like 7 o'clock. The gates open. I'll share the link. How's that? Now, this is not our event. This is an event put on by the Charleston County Park System at James Island County Park. It is their reggae night. They have 4 of them scheduled out through the next couple of months. If you go to our website, scnormal.org, and go to our coming events page, you will find those dates. It's going to be next Friday, June 2nd. Also, then Friday, June 23rd, 3 weeks after that. Then July 14th, and the last one on August 4th. Weather permitting, we expect to be at all of those events. We expect to just kind of set up our little viewing area and be present. We are not sponsors. We are not vendors. And let me find our little disclaimer. South Carolina is not a vendor or a sponsor to this event. The views expressed by NORML South Carolina NORML are ours alone and do not reflect the views of CCPRC, the Charleston County Park and Recreation Commission. Now, just so you know, this is not our event. I want to make that very clear. There is a ticket fee to get in if you're not a Park Gold Pass member. Gold Pass members can be purchased ahead of the event, but they are not available at the gate or the day of, I believe. Tickets are $10 per person, or if you have a Gold Pass, you show that and everybody in your car gets in. So I'm an employee, so I don't need a Gold Pass, but my wife generally has a Gold Pass too, because the value on them is great. I mean, you go to these 4 events and you get 4 people in with you each time, you've more than paid for your Gold Pass. But anyway, $10 a person to come on out to this event at the James Island County Park on June 2nd. Come and join your normal friends and your normal friends, I guess. We've got all 4 dates again listed on our website. I will show them to you real quick since I've got it up on my screen. Boy, that might be hard to read on the screen. Sorry about that. But anyway, you can go ahead to our, like I say, our coming events page and get more details on that kind of stuff. I see a comment down here from Eric. How do I become more active involved in South Carolina? I'm in Piedmont, Lancaster area. I'd love to become more a part in the fight for our rights to use natural medicine as opposed to opiates. As I mentioned to most people, usually the first thing we ask is, become a member, join our organization, get yourself. Oh, I didn't even wear my fancy badges tonight. I'll show them to you. South Carolina NORML badge on the top. You can also get one from National. But really, biggest way really to kind of keep posted on how to get involved or how to get more involved is join us every Wednesday night on these conversations and kind of interact with us on our social media. I tend to do Facebook more than anything else. Volunteer when we have opportunities, and now this is something I've mentioned to folks before. It's hard to do, but we've got an option that if people in other areas of the state want to open a subchapter under us, a Piedmont, Lancaster, South Carolina NORML chapter, there is some information on our website on how to do that, or you can always email me through our website, and we can get you some more details on that. It generally takes the commitment of 4 people per area to start a subchapter. And so we're kind of working on it. I know there's people in the different areas. I just don't know if we've got 4 people that are willing to kind of organize and work together at this point. But the reason we've sort of worked it out that way is so that people can open up a chapter in their communities under our national or under our state nonprofit umbrella. And that way we kind of take care of all the filings and stuff like that. And there's some criteria on there, again, listed on the website, so check it out. But generally, we ask you to sort of do some activities maybe once a month, similar to like what we're doing here with Reggae Night, is just get out, start talking to people, be on the street, have a little group gathering, things like that. And with that in mind, not only do we have Reggae Night coming up, like I say, for about 4 different weeks, we are starting our plan for, let me scroll down just a little further, a day at the beach and a Folly Beach sweep. That's planned for July 23rd. That's a Sunday morning, July 23rd at 9 a.m. Be on the beach at Folly Beach at the 2nd Street East entrance. We have got some more information coming on that in the not too distant future. And although there's a beach sweep sign-up form listed on the coming events page, it's not an active form yet. Give me a couple days to finalize some information on there. I needed to kind of put that on pause a couple of days till I finished it up. And yeah, that's kind of what we've got planned for now. We do have some sad news I want to mention before the call ends here. Not like sad, but it's sad news. Many of you that have been following or supporting us for the past few years, our Deputy Director, Kristen Mummert, will be leaving us at the end of the month. She joined us about 4 years ago. She has been an excellent addition to our organization. If you participated in any of our lobby days, you probably met Kristen. She was the one that pretty much did all of our scheduling with the legislators, reached out to them, made sure that we were able to schedule with your legislators. She would then accompany many of us to those legislative meetings. Moving on to continue her education for a year in New Zealand. And then my understanding is she plans on coming back and doing some additional education in the Chicago area closer to her home. So a great loss to our organization. She's been a great help. She's also helped me get the newsletter out each month for the past 4 years. And we've been pretty good about getting it out once a month. We do have a new board secretary that has come on in, and our current board secretary VP, who you all know, will be bumping up to our deputy director position starting in the beginning of June. So we have a couple of staff changes going on. But as always, you're welcome to reach out to us through our social media, through our website. Share your ideas with us and let us know what it is that you kind of want from us and what we can do to help you advocate for cannabis here in South Carolina. I see it's after 8 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap this up and just say, don't forget, Wednesday next week, 7 o'clock, I will be here. Not sure the topic yet, but I'm going to start planning ahead. No more of this flying by the seat of the pants. Last but not least, keep following us on social media. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate your support. Have a great night, y'all. Bye now.